Hello and welcome to another edition of the LFC show. I'm David Brindle. This week I am joined once again by Kieran Grayson. Kieran, how are you?
Yeah, Sam, mate.
Good stuff. And also joining me and Kieran tonight is Paul Jones. Paul, hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Fantastic, mate. Doing well. Glad to see both of you again. It's 3 weeks in a run now. Getting good this. We've got plenty to talk about as ever. We'll be looking ahead to the Arsenal game. We'll be talking about our hot topic of the week, which is another tasty one. And we'll also start off by talking about Chelsea. It was a 2-0 win away at Stamford Bridge. And Kieran, I'll come to you first. What did you make of the game?
Yeah, mate. Well, from our point of view, I thought we were excellent. From whether it was against 11 men or 10 men, I thought the performance was spot on. Controlled the game, kept the ball, limited them to a very, very few amount of chances. And then the second half, when we got our chances, we were clinical.
We certainly were clinical. It was a fantastic performance all round. Paul, what did you make of the big instance just before half time? Obviously, we'll get into that at the minute. But what did you make of the game before that? Were Liverpool on top, or how did the red card affect the game?
I don't think the red card affected the game whatsoever. To be honest, I thought Liverpool were controlling the game. I thought it was only a matter of time before we got that first goal. I think if it had any effect, I think the only effect it had was that it speeded the quickness of the goal up. I thought Chelsea played into Liverpool's hands with their tactics. We discussed last week about how we thought that Chelsea might take some inspiration from Leeds, and they didn't. They just done the complete opposite. They thought that they could sit in and go long, and hopefully Timo Werner or Kai Havertz could get him beyond Liverpool, and it just never worked out for them whatsoever. And Liverpool controlled the game. They were absolutely, dominant in possession, in keeping the ball prior to Christensen getting sent off. I think the only thing that sort of shocked me was that it wasn't a straight red and he had to look at VAR, because I think that's a straight red in rugby league as well, isn't it?
That did baffle me, I'll be honest. That did baffle me. I mean, I feel like the referees are using VAR as a sort of way to cop out a little bit maybe and go, well, we can give a yellow card and see if VAR overturns it. That was clear as day, red card. I do disagree with you though. I do think, the red card changed things massively. I felt that red card was as good as a goal for Liverpool. I don't think Chelsea were the better team as such, but I just felt as though the impact of knowing you're coming out in the second half and you're going to play against 10 men was, even if it was just subconscious, it was huge for Liverpool. And then obviously you see the change that Chelsea make after the break with, was it Havertz coming off? Can't remember who came on. Was it Tomori who came on? I think, I can't remember. But straight away, that Chelsea have not so much give up on the game, but are just, clutching at anything they can to get a result. Kieran, is this a statement win for Liverpool so early on in the season?
I do think it sends us, a decent message out there. Because at the end of the day, Chelsea were in the top 4 last season, and as we alluded to, whether it was against 11 or 10, I thought we were just so comfortable in the game. So you'll see all the other teams will be looking at that, thinking, are we going to get past these again? We're going to have the same problems, because we cut out those individual errors from that Leeds game. We look solid from front to back. So yeah, I'd say it definitely sends out a statement of intent. Arsenal will be looking at that, and they'll certainly have their plans to try and break through us next week.
Yeah, we're going to come to Arsenal very, very shortly. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Kieran. I think it was a bit of a statement win, whether you like it or not. Whether you can say, the teams might, the supporters might say, "Oh, it's down to 10 men," and blah blah. But to go there and beat Chelsea 2-0. And at the time, go 6 points clear of the likes of Manchester City and Manchester United, even though they only played one game or hadn't played yet. Still massive for me. Kieran, I'll stay with you. Who was your standout performer from the game?
Yeah, personally for me, I'd go with Fabinho. I didn't know before the game that Gomez and Matip had knocks. So when I obviously go on Twitter and have a look at the team news, and I see that, you know, neither of them, I wonder that, you know, Fabinho's going to start centre-back. And obviously that does play on your mind of, oh, you know, how much, you know, he has got experience there, but, you know, he's coming up against, you know, Timo Werner, one of the, you know, best strikers in Europe, you know, potentially. So that did have me worries there. But as soon as I saw, certainly that first half, when Werner got one-on-one with him a couple of times, it was absolute brick wall. Wasn't getting past him. And so for me, he absolutely stood up, was accounted for, and he was a big, big part in getting those 3 points.
He was. He had that instance, I think it was the first time that Werner went at him, where he looked a bit ropey. And I thought, oh, we might be in for a bit of a dodgy afternoon here with him at centre-half. But you know what? Give him his due. He played really well. He's a great footballer, Fabinho. And we'll get to in a bit whether we think it's okay to have him as your fourth choice centre-back or not. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Paul, what about you? Who was your standout performer from the game?
There's a few, isn't there? I thought, you know, I have to agree with Keane. I thought Fabinho had a fantastic game. I think one of the main things that I wanted to mention, and it was a bit more of a team effort than an individual, was how Liverpool sort of nullified Marcos Alonso's attacking ability. You know, Chelsea look to get Marcos Alonso as high up the pitch as they can. You know, he quite often can be found at the back post sneaking in. And I think there was only twice in the whole game where I can remember him sort of causing us any issues. Once we let him run and he created a chance, and then I think the second time he arrived at the back post to go for a header and it went over. So I think Liverpool had done the homework on that. And that nullified a lot of Chelsea's attacking ability because they do look for that. It's funny, I know it's not none of our concern, but they are going to have to change the way they play when Ben Chilwell comes into their squad. I think we might have mentioned that last week, but from a Liverpool point of view, you know, as I say, I agree. Fabinho was outstanding. I thought Mo Salah, again, you know, against Leeds, he was outstanding, and he carried that on again on Sunday. I think, you know, he comes in for a little bit of stick here and there, Salah, because he scores goals, but he'll miss some chances, or he'll, you know, like he did at Burnley, didn't pass the ball. Yeah, so I think Mo Salah was outstanding. I think Mane obviously gets the 2 goals and plays really well and puts centre halves under pressure. I think it's difficult to pick out one player. If I had to pick one player for man of the match, I'd probably go with Keane and say Fabinho, who I thought slotting in at centre half was absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
there's hardly any arguments to have there, Paul. If it was for me, I probably would have picked Mane, just because he's just phenomenal. I know we've got a team full of superstars at the moment, but that second goal he scores is just totally, just sums our team up really, but it sums him up as well. He gives the ball away and he gives that little jump of I've give the ball away, and then he's just after Kepa, and obviously Kepa's a bit arrogant, a bit casual, and tries to be a bit, you know, silly really, and ends up conceding, but it just sums Mane up and it summed his performance up. But yeah, definitely fantastic performance all round. We also got to see the debut of new boy Thiago Alcantara. We won't talk about the penalty, but other than that, Paul, what did you make of his debut?
I think we need to talk about the penalty. I think, to be fair, you know, in possession, outstanding. Out of possession, you know, he's got to get up to the pace of the Premier League, and that's fine. You know, he's come in at 29. He's never played in this league before, so that's to be expected. There was a couple of silly fouls. I think he ended up doing 3 or 4 in the second half. But as I say, that will probably be eradicated from his game as he gets used to the tempo of the game. I thought it was a masterstroke to bring him on, to be honest with you. Whether Henderson was injured or not, and it was intentional, it turned out to be an absolute masterstroke, because what happened was Chelsea then, with the 10 men, dropped deeper and deeper, and that just gave Thiago the space he needed to operate. You know, I thought he kept the ball moving well. He looked to try and sort of break lines and break that deep defensive line of Chelsea as often as he could. He didn't just do pointless passes. You know, I've seen far too many players in that position who just do pointless passes. They're getting nowhere, and they'll play it to a fullback who's going nowhere, and then they'll get it back and they'll play it to a centre half who's going nowhere. And he didn't look to do that. He looked to play it forward all the time, whether that be, literally forward into Firmino and Mane and Salah, or whether that looked to be going forward into advanced fullbacks who could then play the next pass, into those forwards who we've just mentioned. So I thought, I'd say, in possession, outstanding. Out of possession, he's just got to get up to the pace of the Premier League. Would you agree with that, Kieran?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I would agree with the fact that coming on against 10 men in the second half was an ideal suit for him, certainly. But if I wouldn't have known anything about football and I'd have looked at that game and you'd have told me after that game that was his league debut, not just his debut, I doubt he'd have had time to even train with us. So it just looked like you could have been misplaced for someone who'd been there for 2 or 3 years, and I wouldn't have known the difference really. On the penalty, I mean, I've still not seen an angle that conclusively says it was a penalty. I mean, I'm only going on what the referees and the VARs would have talked about. If there's contact, it's ever so slight. But like you said with the red card, as soon as the on-field decision's given, really, and they get together, it's more times than not they're going to stick with it. But for me, yeah, I think if we get a penalty like that, you're overjoyed, but because it's gone against us, it just looks soft.
I think we're going to see a lot of iffy penalties this year, especially with the handball, and with this whole VAR thing of the referees are now given a bit more leeway, if you like, to just let it go to VAR. We've seen it with the offsides. We've seen it with several decisions where the ref, I think there was one, was it the Aston Villa game? That's a bit of a controversial one, whether you think that's a red card or not, with the John Egan get sent off. But, again, you were talking about that before, Paul. When we started, Mane is hauled down and he's given a yellow card. John Egan's got his arm a little bit on Ollie Watkins and he's sent straight off. And it's like, where's the consistency? But we're always going to ask about that with referees. Probably another dodgy penalty decision to come against Arsenal. We'll move on to that game now. At some point, there probably will be one. A Monday night game. It's another big game, Kieran, isn't it?
Yeah, most certainly, mate. They're all big against Arsenal over the years. But one thing I will put out is the bloody random fixture computed again, because I was looking back at it and I just thought to myself, all the time, we always play Arsenal at the start of every season, whether home or away. So I did a bit of digging, and in the last 10 years, we played Arsenal 8 times in the first 5 games. So, I just think all these, is it a random fixture computer? I don't know. But at the game itself, the last few years, Arsenal have come to Anfield and, well, we've destroyed them, really. Under Klopp, we've won 4 out of 5 and scored 18. So I think it'll be different this time. I think certainly from what I've seen of Arsenal since Arteta's gone in there, they look definitely more of a team anyway. Grinding out performances when they've had to. I think they'll come, and I think it'll be personally different to the Leeds game, whereas more similar to the Chelsea game. As I think they'll sit in and they'll just sit and hope and wait for the counter attack. So it may be a night where we need to be patient. But, we'll have to see how the game goes.
In terms of the bigger picture, Paul, obviously Kieran just mentioned there Arsenal haven't had a great time at Anfield in recent years. Should we now be taking Arsenal a little bit more seriously going on the last few games, and especially under Arteta?
I think it doesn't matter who you're playing. You've got to, treat every opponent with respect. Looking at previous results, because they count for nothing. So you've got to look at, what I would do personally is obviously you look at your most recent game against Arsenal, which wasn't that long ago because we've got the Charity Shield. And you can look at probably the games in between then and now that they've played as a sort of a scouting mission. And, they've got good forwards, are dangerous going forward. They like to keep the ball. Some of the playing out from the back, is second to none, really. So yeah, I think you've got to pay them the ultimate respect. Yeah, we have had good results over them the last 10, 15 years. We've had some absolutely outstanding games at Anfield against Arsenal. One of the best quality games I've ever been to was when we beat them 2-1. It was under Benitez. It was the famous Neil Mellor goal. The quality on show from both teams over the last 10, 15 years has been outstanding. So I don't think Monday will be any different. They've, as I say, the likes of Lacazette going forward, and Aubameyang going forward. They've got players in midfield who can pass and can play. Cabalos, whatever you say his name. I'm not Spanish, David, so I don't know how to pronounce it. They've got, for me, their weak spot is probably centre half, which is what I would be looking to expose. But as I say, over the last couple of weeks in lockdown, they've had 2 decent results against us, if you look at it that way. So it's going to be a tough game. I think Kieran touched on it as well. I think it's going to be probably one of the toughest games at Anfield that we've played against Arsenal in a while. I think a lot of the time the crowd at Anfield gets to Arsenal. And obviously with there being no crowd there, they haven't got that to contend with anymore. So I do think it'll be a tough game, and Liverpool are going to have to pay Arsenal the ultimate respect by playing our strongest available 11 and playing ultimately at our peak.
I'd have to say I agree with that. Kieran, Paul's just mentioned the Community Shield there a couple of weeks ago. Do you think the Liverpool squad will have revenge on the mind?
Not necessarily revenge, but certainly look to improve on that performance. Yeah, obviously early season, they're not too sure, how it was going to play out. But I think, the idea of any football match is just trying to improve on your last game as much as you can. Not just that one. The game at the end of last season as well, the 2-1 loss. I thought both teams were really poor in that game. So I think we do have a lot to do. We do need to show a lot of respect there. I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll be one of those where, if the game's still level for quite a while, it might just be that one goal that wins it. So yeah, a lot to look back on from the Community Shield game, and hopefully an improved performance, and we can just sneak over the line.
Fingers crossed, that'd be nice. Now, obviously, Liverpool do play a game before Arsenal. They take on Lincoln City in the EFL Cup. For our thoughts on that, you need to watch Liverpool TV on Thursday evening. No, you don't. You need to watch Liverpool TV on Wednesday evening. Got that one wrong. And check out social media, and then you'll see our thoughts and our preview for that one on there. We'll move on to a little bit of quick news, if that's okay, boys. James Pearce this week, obviously writes for The Athletic, has said that Liverpool aren't going to bring any more additions in before the transfer window closes on October the 5th. Obviously, Liverpool have just signed Thiago Alcantara, who's rumoured for a long time, most of the summer. And a little bit out of nowhere, Diogo Jota joins from Wolves as well. Do you think it's wise? I'll come to you first, Kieran. Do you think it's wise that Liverpool aren't going to make any more additions?
No, not too sure. I think anyone would like, 1 or 2 more, obviously, but it's whether the funds are going to be there still. I know obviously Keanu Herber's gone the other way. He's gone to Wolves this week. So me personally, we spoke about a couple of weeks ago when we hadn't brought anyone in, and I said I was a bit worried. I think the 2 lads, Thiago and Jota, we have brought in are going to make a difference to this. Going to make a difference to us this season, but a little bit on the fence. If you possibly 1 or 2 more, but I wouldn't be too surprised or disappointed if we didn't.
Paul, would you like to see any more additions made, or are you happy with what we've got?
No, I would. I'd like to see another centre half. I know we've just talked about how fantastic Fabinho was on Sunday, but what I don't want to do is end up relying on Fabinho. It only takes a couple of injuries, and all of a sudden you're relying on Fabinho and Van Dijk to remain fit for 3-4 months. We only have to look at Matip and Joe Gomez's injury issues, and I think off the top of my head, we probably had one of them missing for the majority of the last 2 years. We had obviously Joe Gomez with his injury at Burnley where he broke his leg, and Joel Matip seems to pick up injury after injury, just walking to training and things. I don't know what goes on, because both of them are so talented as well, and it's so disappointing strength in there, because you only have to look down the East Lancs at Manchester City, where they ended up playing with Fernandinho at centre half quite a lot, and I don't want that to happen to Liverpool. Fabinho is a fantastic stopgap and a one-off for me, but I don't want him to become a regular centre half. And plus, I think we need Fabinho in midfield as well in certain games. I think he's an outstanding midfielder who can do a job at centre half, but I want to be seeing him in his natural position. So yeah, I think we need, especially a centre half, maybe one other bit of a utility man, maybe you can fill in certain places. I think Kieran's just mentioned finances, and I think the finances could be found. I'm not saying that they are there at the moment, but I think there's a lot of players at the club who will be leaving over the next couple of weeks before the 5th of October deadline, and maybe even some after it, to the likes of Championship clubs and things. And there's quite a few who can leave, and we probably won't even notice that they're gone. The likes of Harry Wilson, maybe Ben Woodburn, that type of player, Loris Karius, who they're never going to make it at Liverpool, I don't think. And if they were going to make it, I think we'd have probably seen them within pre-season and things. So there is money to be found by, moving these fringe players on, and I do think that there will be money there if the emergency requires another player, but I don't think we'll go and buy one. I just think we need to.
I agreed with nearly everything you said there, Paul. I think Harry Wilson deserves a chance, but other than that, spot on. I think
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a chance. I just don't think he'll get one. I think if he was going to get one, we'd have probably seen him. I think maybe the team selection for Lincoln may give a bit of an inkling into what's going to happen with Harry Wilson. If he's not anywhere near the squad, then that probably tells you all you need to know.
I think that applies for a lot of the squad, doesn't it? I think that applies for Marco Grujic, Ryan Brewster, a lot of these players who are rumoured to be leaving, and there's bids. I think that'll apply for a lot of them. I'm totally with both of you that we do need a centre half. I think, again, James Pearce wrote that Klopp sees Billy Koumetio, as his 5th choice centre half, which is great in terms of youth development. But as a club going for a title, do you want to throw? I think he's 18 years of age.
17 he is. 17. Yeah, he's 17
you
years old.
You want to throw him into the Wolves and, see if he sinks or swims. Don't get me wrong. If worst comes to worst and he plays and he's fantastic, brilliant. But, there's a risk attached to throwing a 17-year-old kid in there. So I would like to see a centre-half. Dejan Lovren, I think, played 15 games last season. So you're asking for trouble not replacing him, because you can pretty much guarantee you're going to lose Gomez and Matip for a minimum of 6 to 8 weeks each every season, in my opinion. So I think we should probably add another centre-half. And as you say, Paul, the stance might change after some players are sold. That stance may change, because we've seen rumours of different centre-backs across the continent really being linked with Liverpool. So we'll keep our eye on that one, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about on that next week. But let's go on to our hot topic, and we'll finish off with this. So obviously we've spoke a little bit about Thiago's performance in the Chelsea game, and before we go any further, he's a fantastic footballer. No one's saying he's rubbish. He played really well. You've probably seen it on social media. I think he made 75 successful passes in the first 45 minutes. And since passing data became available in 2003, that's the most passes by a Premier League player who's played a maximum of 45 minutes. Obviously, as I said, it's been all over social media. People are crying out about it. Is it a little bit of an overreaction, Paul? I'll come to you first. Is it a little bit of an overreaction for people to be going on about a stat like that?
Yes, I think so. Don't get me wrong. He played really, really well. He came on, he controlled the game. He dictated play, but I think circumstances probably allowed him to do that. And for me, it'll be very, very interesting to see what he's like when certain teams come and maybe drop a number 10 on him. Put a number 10 on to sit on him and maybe not allow him that much space, or certainly as much space as Chelsea did with only having the 10 men. So Yeah, it's a great start, and some of them passes were absolutely phenomenal. The vision on him is fantastic, but let's just let him settle down. It's his first 45 minutes in Premier League football, never mind in the Liverpool shirt. As you say, he hadn't even trained with the squad. Let's just relax, let him come in, let him settle down, give him a couple of months, and then if he's still doing it in 3 and 4 months' time, then yeah, let's all get excited about it. But I just think it is a little bit over the top for 45 minutes of football. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got to take those stats with just a little bit of pinch of salt. Obviously, fantastic for the lad. Coming on his debut to get that record, fantastic. And I like it as well because you just see that online. Up to post it. It does just annoy other fans, which is always a good thing. You're always going to get a little bite from loads of fans there. So it was good that he did it, but coming on, that game situation was just perfect for him. Aside they were going defensive, in the end playing for a point against 10 men, he was allowed a lot of space. So, of course, he was going to make a lot of passes. He's still going to come and do the job, though, which he did, which was fantastic. But, yeah, I'd just take it with a little bit of pinch of salt there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you say, he's playing against 10 men, a team who have not given up but have decided to sit in and block everything off. He's going to get so much time on the ball. I'd like to see a pass map. I know he made quite a lot of forward passes, but I would like to see a pass map. I should have looked for that just to see how many passes. I think I read something that he made more long passes than, I can't remember what it was now, but he made quite a lot of long ball passes, which is interesting from his position because, as you say, Paul, I think you mentioned it, where a lot of players in that position will just pass to the right, pass to the left. So I would like to see that. If he's doing things like that against your Manchester Cities of this world, or even a full-strength Chelsea team that would play a little bit more like they did last season, who were a bit more open, then fair enough. That's a fantastic achievement. But in the situation that we're in, it's not really a big deal. It is great, though, as you say, Kieran, for other teams to see that and either be annoyed and saying the same things that we are, like, oh, he's playing against 10 men, it doesn't even matter, or just be a little bit like, oh, Liverpool have got a good player there. Why didn't we go after him? I think there might be about 50-50 split with people feeling like that. So that's our hot topic of the week. I think just in comparison, he completed more passes in 45 minutes than any Chelsea player did in 90 minutes. I think that's more impressive. And Mateo Kovacic was the only one who got close to him with 58. So, I mean, that is quite impressive, but at the same time, slight overreaction. That's the podcast for this week. My thanks to Kieran Grayson. Kieran, thank you.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Nice one.
And Paul Jones, thank you very much, Paul.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
We'll be back next week after the Arsenal game. We'll be talking all about that. We'll be rounding up any news that we've had in the week, and we'll also look ahead to Aston Villa. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you next week.